On January 1st, we saw the PWHL play their first game, Toronto, New York. And then, of course, on Tuesday night, Ottawa got up and going against Montreal. I had the chance to go to that Ottawa-Montreal game. It was the vibe in the building was fantastic. Place was sold out.
It was coming through on the TV.
8,300 people. I think the final count was 83-18 to set the world record. Have you had a chance to watch much of either of those games? What have you thought early on?
I saw large chunks of the Ottawa-Montreal game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's you can tell it's in a junior barn, right? On TV, it just sort of, the camera angles, you can't get up as high. It's not as...
Yeah.
But it was entertaining. It was entertaining, and the crowd was fired up. Like, it was coming through the TV. So I thought, from what I watched, I thought Ottawa was the better team.
Carried the play for large...
You go 0 for 3 on those first 3 power plays in the first period, you are courting disaster.
So I sent a tweet after the first period there from the barn saying, man, for as long as I've been watching this league, this Montreal team's been so dirty, right? Like, this got a history of not being able to stay out of the box.
I did love the booing of Montreal.
I was going to bring that up, man, because this has been a point, and it's not been blown out of proportion as some things do on Twitter. The booing of Marie-Philippe Poulin in the nation's capital. You're good with that?
I'm good with the booing.
I'm good with it. I booed.
Yeah. Now when she's draped in the maple leaf,
yeah. Now she's ours.
She's ours, but
right.
you're not tonight, and that is how you know that you've got something.
Yes.
Right.
This is now club hockey.
You're getting paid to play hockey, and you're no longer. You're not where you're on the bus, or you're under the bus. And so it was funny. I was listening on Tuesday to our good pal AJ, and he was like, "Oh, I think the vibe is gonna. I think they're just gonna cheer everybody."
Yeah, this was before the game.
Before the game, and I'm like, I hope not. Like, I get it.
Yeah,
but no, this is for money. We want to win.
Yeah, my town versus your town.
Get out of here. Beat it.
Yeah.
So
now that did happen at the end of the game when everyone understood the moment, right? The occasion. And they're shaking hands, which I doubt they'll do after every regular season game, but certainly did that time. Then there was a photo of both teams together. The crowd understood that and stayed after the game to clap for the whole thing, cheer for the whole thing. Honestly, man, the vibe was awesome in the building, even leading up to it, and everybody's getting cheered, and it just felt like something big was happening when you went in there. Yeah. And then they scored that first goal. It gets disallowed. But that was such a bummer because people stayed up and cheered for so long. Like, this is the first goal in franchise history. And they take it off the board. And fair enough, right? It went under the net, right? Like, okay. But that is such a buzzkill that people love that. And you can't tell, like, you've been to enough live hockey games, like, you can't tell in the stands. It went in the net. Great.
And again, the camera angle, so I'm watching from home, and it's a goal, but it's pulled far enough back, right, that you can't tell from there. Yeah. Right? It's like she tucked it in between the skate and the post, and you're like, boom, good. And so, and I it escapes me who the two commentators, the play-by-play and the color, were on TV. Yeah. But they're like, oh, it's so nice that the refs are realizing the how big this moment is, and they're letting it play out, and they're letting the fans cheer. And then you look at they pan over, and the two refs are discussing it, and you're like, that doesn't look like they're letting the crowd have their moment. Oh, it's under
They're about
review.
to take away the moment.
Exactly. And then you start looking, and you're like, oh.
Now, to the crowd's credit, a little later on, Haley Skamura gets the first goal in franchise history. And the crowd mostly recreates the same vibe.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, like we thought we had this moment. But people did get up and cheer. And to me, that's going to be one of the coolest moments of watching this league is understanding and seeing these players excel in different roles, right? Like Haley Skamura, much like Emily Clark, also on Ottawa. Those are players that on the national team are kind of third-line centers because they're very good defensively, right?
Yep.
But they can score when given the chance. And last year, Emily Clark in the PWHPA tour, she finished second to Poulin in scoring.
Yeah.
And so when you give these players these opportunities, and it's no different than watching the men's game in the Olympics, where all of a sudden you're like, your guy is your number one center, and here he's the third line left winger, and he's being asked to do something different, right? What was that line in Vancouver? Richards, Taves, and Rick Nash, I think, ended up being the shutdown line. All those guys are top line guys on their club teams, but we need you to do a different job here. So in this league, you're going to see it kind of in reverse because you're used to seeing those national team roles. But these are players who can score and can compete. And man, the vibe in the building was just that this is an event. This is cool. Yeah, we're going to boo Philippe Poulin when she's in on the power or on the penalty shot. Boo Montreal but when it was all said and done, the amount of understanding that this was cool. This is a moment. A lot of the people I follow here on sports Twitter in Ottawa were all in the building, like wanted to be a part of this. So
yeah,
it was an awesome vibe to be there, man.
And I was surprised by the air quotes physicality. There was some board rattling going on there.
I did a pod on January 1st right after watching the Toronto-New York game, and I said, I'll be curious to see, was this kind of a one-off, or is this going to be a little more, they're going to be allowed to play a little more let go than the international game. That'll be a trend to, and when I was in the building there for the Ottawa-Montreal game, yeah, like there's some chippiness here, right? Like there's some contact, there's some hits, so I don't know yet if that's enough to say it's a trend, if they've been told the rules are going to be laxed a little, I'm not sure. But early returns say, yeah, you're going to be looking at a more physical brand of hockey. Well,
so Kenzie Lalonde was on 1200 on Wednesday morning she's still in Gothenburg.
Right, yeah.
And she does a lot of play-by-play for women's hockey on TSN. And so she was asked about that specifically. And she said, yeah, you know what? She said the AHL refs are the ones that they've used as soundboards for this.
Right.
And they've asked them to let more go.
Okay.
And they said,
well, that's coming through.
Yeah. And she said typically when it gets to Worlds or the Olympics, they'll let Canada and the US go a little bit more.
Yeah.
But if it's Canada, Japan, they're tight. They're tight on the rule book.
Yeah.
And
there's some bullying that can happen there.
Right. And so, but they've asked the refs to be more lax, that the women want to do it.
Yeah.
The women are keen for it. And Carla McLeod was on the radio on Tuesday, I believe, and she was saying...
Head coach, yeah.
Yeah, head coach of Ottawa, was saying, yeah, these women are in incredible shape. They train for this. And it's funny because we were watching when Brianne Jenner was at the Ottawa Buffalo, I think, on New Year's Eve.
For the Sens, yeah.
Yeah, and she was there, and she was wearing a short-sleeve shirt. Yeah, and Joe goes, look at the pipes on her. Right? Like... These are elite athletes.
Yes.
And they are trained for this. And why can't that woman take a body check? And she's saying, I want to take that body. I want to give.
Yeah.
So it has been in the first two games been the case. And I hope it carries on because anybody who's watched U.S. Canada gold medal games, no body contact. There's a lot of body contact, right? Like, or no body checking, but you're allowed to rub out.
Contact is allowed, but checking is not. Like, well, where's that line?
Yeah.
Right?
So to me, it's the men's game has less.
Yep.
And so to me, I think the two are starting to meet in a sort of a nice spot.
Yeah. And so that's going to be fun to watch, man. I'll be back. Like it was a great time, but the barn was hopping. Yeah. And
already sold out for game 2.
Yeah. It's great, man. Honestly, and they made in the video package before they started, and I really liked the tagline or whatever you'd want to call it at the end. There's a voice that just goes, "Ice time earned." Like, we made it.
Well,
and so that's perfect. Stamp it there, sell it, put it on a T-shirt, right? Like, just a great line.
Well, and I had a daughter who played girls hockey. She moved over to boys when she was 10, as opposed to the opposite. Usually they go the other way.
Right.
But I spent 4 years, through novice and Adam. Anyways, girls hockey is fantastic, and now this gives all those little girls who only have McDavid or McKinnon or whoever to look to, right? They now have a spot where they can look to go, yeah, that's an avenue. That's totally an avenue for me.
I just watched it. Brianne Jenner here right in front of me on Saturday afternoon or whatever it was.
Yeah. and I'm at the glass or I'm whatever, and I go out and I am Marie-Philippe Poulin or Brianne Jenner or Emily Clark, as you suggest, or as Sudsy in the announcing, Rosie. Well, I don't know what happened there. From Missouri.
That Rosie. Was the part that I thought was odd as well. Was everyone was Matt Robinson from Oshawa, Ontario. This was from Ontario, Matt. Like that was a weird.
Yeah.
It was like, did he drop his papers? Is there a smudge here? And there was a part of me, like, I'm not trying to be an asshole here, but is Rosie like Quinn on the National Women's Soccer? Like, does she prefer to go by? But it was the no city that made me think, no, something else weird happened there.
Well, there was a pause. It was a brief pause too. And Sudsy does the Red Blacks games.
Yeah.
And he has got a great voice.
100%.
But yeah, you could tell
it seemed like his paper was smudged or something.
Well, Jinsey Rose.
Yep.
And yeah, he came out with Rosie from
Missouri. Rosie.
It was
it was an odd moment.
It was a break, and it was like, from Missouri.
Yeah.
A little break again. Rosie. You're like, okay, Sudsy. I'm not sure what happened there, buddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. There might have been a little bit of a little hot dog grease, something on there.
Could have been anything.
Former O lineman, right? He's up there doing his thing. So
yeah,
very good though, man. Very good.
Great night over at TD Place, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that as it continues to develop. As you and I are sitting here now, the last two teams to start their season haven't played yet, but it's Boston and Minnesota tonight. As I said, by the time the good listener hears this, that'll be last night. But the whole league will have gotten going, and I would suggest off to a pretty impressive start. So
100%.
On the point, bringing that into the middle. Boyd out, big shot in, it touches down. Ottawa's